Across the quiet landscapes of South Dakota, some mysteries still remain unsolved. Beneath the ground, deep inside WindCave, explorers continue to discover new tunnels in one of the longest cave systems in the world. Many believe hidden chambers may still exist in the darkness, waiting to be found. Above ground, the rocky surfaces of the BlackHills hold ancient petroglyphs carved by people who lived here long ago. Strange symbols, spirals, and figures remain on the stone, but their true meaning is still unknown. And across the open plains, old reports once spoke about giant human bones discovered in burial mounds, raising questions about who these unusually tall individuals were. Are these simply forgotten stories, or clues to a deeper past? These three mysteries, hidden caves, ancient carvings, and giant bones, continue to keep the history of South Dakota filled with wonder and unanswered questions. The hidden chambers of WindCave, deep under the quiet hills of South Dakota, lies a place that feels almost unreal. Above the ground, the land looks peaceful. Pine trees move slowly in the wind, animals wander through the forest, and the sky stretches wide over the prairie. But beneath that calm surface, there is a hidden world. A world of dark tunnels, silent chambers, and passages that twist and turn for miles. This place is known as WindCave. At first glance, WindCave might not look like the entrance to one of the biggest cave systems on Earth. The opening is actually quite small compared to other famous caves. Many visitors are surprised when they see it for the first time. But once you step inside, everything changes. The cave stretches deep underground, forming a massive network of tunnels. Scientists have already mapped more than 150 miles of passages, and the number keeps growing. Explorers continue to discover new sections even today. That means a simple truth. A large part of this cave system is still unknown, and that is where the mystery begins. The cave was officially discovered by American settlers in 1881. According to early stories, two brothers were walking through the hills when they heard strange sound coming from a small hole in the ground. It sounded like wind rushing in and out. When they came closer, they felt a strong flow of air coming from the opening. The wind was so powerful that it could pull hats off people's heads. That strange air movement gave the cave its name, WindCave. But the wind itself created a question. Why was air moving so strongly in and out of the cave? Scientists later discovered that the cave acts almost like a giant breathing system. When air pressure outside changes, the cave pushes air out or pulls air in through the entrance. Still, that explanation only solved part of the mystery, because the cave itself is far larger than anyone expected. Inside the cave, explorers found narrow passages that suddenly open into rooms. Some chambers are small, while others feel huge when you stand inside them. The walls are covered with strange rock formations. One of the most unusual formations found here is called boxwork. Boxwork looks like thin lines of rock forming square and honeycomb shapes along the cave walls. It almost looks like a delicate stone spiderweb frozen in time. Scientists say this formation is extremely rare. WindCave actually contains one of the largest collections of boxwork in the world. But the strange shapes are not the only thing that makes this cave mysterious. As explorers continued mapping the tunnels, they noticed something interesting. The cave system is incredibly complex. Passages go in many directions. Some drop deeper underground, or others twist around in tight curves. It almost feels like a giant maze. In fact, experienced cave explorers sometimes say WindCave is one of the most confusing cave systems to navigate. This raises an interesting thought. If modern explorers with lights and maps find it difficult to move through the cave, what about ancient people? And that question leads to another mystery. For many Native American tribes, WindCave is not just a cave. It is a sacred place. Some tribal traditions say that long ago, humans and animals first came into the world through this cave. According to the stories, people lived inside the earth before emerging through the cave opening into the sunlight. Because of this belief, the cave holds deep spiritual meaning. Many tribes respect the cave as a place connected to the beginning of life. That belief has led some researchers to wonder if ancient people may have explored parts of the cave long before modern explorers arrived. Did they enter the cave for ceremonies? Did they leave signs deeper underground? So far, very little direct evidence has been found inside the deepest parts of the cave. But the size of the cave system makes it very difficult to study every corner. Imagine trying to explore more than 100 miles of narrow tunnels underground. Even today, many sections require crawling through tight spaces. Some passages are barely large enough for a person to fit through. Exploring them takes patience, training, and a lot of courage. Because of this, new tunnels are still being discovered, and each discovery raises new questions. Some explorers believe there could be large hidden chambers deeper inside the cave that have not been found yet. In many cave systems around the world, explorers sometimes discover massive underground rooms after years of searching. If something like that exists inside WindCave, it could change what we know about the cave. Another interesting mystery is the airflow itself. The cave breathes constantly. Sometimes air rushes outward, other times it pulls inward. This movement happens because the cave system is so large that air pressure changes affect it like a giant lung. But the strength of that airflow has led some people to wonder if there might be additional openings somewhere underground that have not been discovered yet. If there are hidden entrances far from the main opening, they could explain some of the powerful wind movement. But so far, no one has found another major entrance. That possibility keeps explorers curious, because if another entrance exists, it could lead to parts of the cave nobody has ever seen. Another reason the cave remains mysterious is the way it formed. Most caves are created when acidic water slowly dissolves limestone from above. Over thousands or millions of years, water creates hollow spaces underground. But WindCave may have formed in a slightly different way. Some scientists believe that the cave began forming deep underground long before water from the surface entered the system. Chemical reactions inside the rock may have created the hollow spaces first. Later, water and minerals helped shape the tunnels we see today. This complex history makes the cave difficult to fully understand. And whenever scientists cannot completely explain something, curiosity grows. People naturally start asking more questions. For example, could deeper layers of the cave still exist below the mapped tunnels? Some geologists believe that possibility is real. WindCave might be only one level of a much larger underground system. If deeper levels exist, they could hold chambers that have remained sealed for thousands or even millions of years. Imagine a hidden room underground that no human has ever entered. That idea alone captures the imagination of many explorers. But exploring deeper areas is extremely difficult. Safety is always the first priority in cave research. Underground passages can collapse, oxygen levels can change. Getting lost is also a real risk. Because of these dangers, cave exploration moves slowly and carefully. That means if hidden chambers exist, discovering them could take many more years, or even decades. Another mystery surrounding the cave comes from the land above it. The hills above WindCave are full of wildlife and forests. Bison roam freely in the surrounding park. The environment feels natural and untouched. But below that peaceful landscape is one of the most complex underground systems in North America. It creates an interesting contrast. Above ground, everything feels open and bright. Below ground, everything is dark and silent. Standing inside the cave, explorers often describe a strange feeling. The silence is so deep that you can hear every small movement. Water dripping somewhere in the distance echoes through the tunnels. It feels like time moves differently underground. That quiet atmosphere is one reason the cave feels mysterious. Not just because of what we know, but because of what we still do not know. Now, let's talk about the present situation at WindCave today. The cave and surrounding land are protected as part of a national park. This protection helps preserve the natural environment and the underground system. Visitors can enter certain parts of the cave through guided tours. Park rangers lead people through safe sections where they can see the boxwork formations and experience the underground world. This is one of the positive sides of the site today. People from around the world can visit and learn about the cave while it remains protected. The surrounding land is also home to wildlife like bison, elk, and prairie dogs. The park helps maintain this natural ecosystem. However, there are also some challenges. Because the cave is so fragile, many areas must remain closed to visitors. Human activity can easily damage delicate formations that took thousands of years to form. Even small changes in temperature or humidity can affect the cave environment. Tourism also creates pressure. The park must balance allowing visitors while protecting the cave. Another issue is that exploration of deeper sections requires time, funding, and trained researchers. So progress in discovering new parts of the cave is slow. But maybe that is not a bad thing. In my opinion, WindCave is more powerful as a mystery than it would be if every tunnel were fully mapped. The idea that hidden passages may still exist deep underground keeps the sense of wonder alive. Some places on Earth should remain partly unknown. WindCave reminds us that even in the modern world, there is still hidden places waiting to be discovered. Today, the cave continues to breathe quietly beneath the hills of South Dakota. Scientists keep studying it, explorers continue mapping new tunnels, and visitors walk carefully through the parts that are open to the public. The mystery is still alive. And somewhere in that dark underground maze, there may still be chambers no one has ever seen. The ancient petroglyphs of BlackHills. Imagine walking deep into the forests of the BlackHills. The road disappears behind you. Tall pine trees stand close together, and the sunlight slowly fades as the branches block the sky. The air feels cooler here. The wind moves softly through the trees, making a quiet sound that feels almost like whispers. Now picture something even stranger. Hidden on some of the rocks in these hills are marks made by human hands hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. These are not random scratches. They are pictures and symbols carved carefully into stone. These ancient carvings are called petroglyphs, and they hold one of the most mysterious stories in this entire region. At first glance, some of these carvings look simple. You might see shapes of animals, like buffalo, elk, or deer. Some carvings show human figures with bows, spears, or arms raised toward the sky. These images may show moments from everyday life, long ago. People hunting, traveling, or gathering together. But not all of the carvings are easy to understand. Some symbols look strange and confusing, spirals turning inward, circles connected with long lines, shapes that do not look like animals or people at all. These strange markings raise many questions. Who made them? Why were they carved here? And what message were they trying to leave behind? The Black Hills have always been a very special place for Native American tribes. For many tribes, These hills are sacred land. Stories passed down through generations say this place is deeply connected to their history and spiritual life. Because of this, many researchers believe the carvings are not just art. They may be part of spiritual traditions or ancient teachings. Imagine living in this land long before cities or highways existed. The forests and hills would have been your world. The rivers would guide your travel. The stars would help you understand time and seasons. In that kind of life, symbols carved into rock could carry important meaning. Some carvings might mark a place where tribes gathered for ceremonies. Others might show stories passed down through families for generations. But some carvings suggest something even more mysterious. In a few areas of BlackHills, the carvings appear in patterns. Certain shapes repeat again and again across the rock surfaces. Researchers studying these patterns notice something interesting. Some symbols seem similar to shapes found in the night sky. Long ago, before cities filled the world with light, the stars were much brighter and easier to see. The sky above these hills would have looked incredible. The Milky Way would stretch across the darkness like a glowing river. Thousands of stars would shine clearly above the mountains. Ancient people may have studied the sky very carefully. They may have watched how stars moved during different seasons. They may have used the stars to guide travel or understand when animals would migrate. Some researchers believe the spiral shapes and circles carved into rocks may represent stars or planets. There are even ideas that some carvings may represent constellations. If that idea is true, the petroglyphs could be one of the oldest records of sky knowledge in this region. But there is a problem. No one left a written explanation. The people who created these carvings likely passed their knowledge through spoken stories and traditions. Over many generations, some of those stories may have disappeared. That means the true meaning of many symbols may never be fully known. Another mystery comes from the effort required to create these carvings. The rocks in the BlackHills are extremely hard. Carving into them would not be easy. Ancient people probably used stone tools or other hard rocks to chip away small pieces of the surface. This process would take a long time. Imagine sitting beside a rock wall for hours, carefully shaping one line at a time. Creating a single symbol could take many hours or even days. This tells us something important. These carvings were not made quickly. They were made with patience and purpose. Someone believed these symbols were important enough to spend that much time carving them into stone. Another interesting detail is where many of these carvings are located. Some appear on rocks that overlook wide valleys. From those spots, you can see large areas of land. That location may not be a coincidence. Standing there, ancient hunters could watch animals moving across the plains. They could see storms approaching from far away. They could also watch the sun rise and set over the hills. Because of this, some historians believe these locations may have been used as observation points. Others think they may have been places where spiritual leaders held ceremonies connected to nature and the sky. Another interesting thing about these petroglyphs is that they were not all carved at the same time. Some carvings appear older than others. This suggests that different groups of people may have visited the same rocks over many centuries. Imagine arriving at a rock where your ancestors carved symbols hundreds of years earlier. You might add your own mark beside theirs, continuing a tradition that connects generations. Over time, the rock becomes a kind of history book written in stone. Each symbol represents a different moment in the past. But because there are no dates or written records, It is almost impossible to know exactly when each carving was made. That mystery makes the petroglyphs even more fascinating. But the story of these carvings also includes some sadness. Over the years, some petroglyph sites have been damaged. Nature itself slowly wears away the rock. Wind, rain, and temperature changes can slowly fade the carvings. But human actions have also caused harm. In the past, some visitors scratched their own names into the rocks near the ancient carvings. Others climbed on the surfaces or touched them too much, causing damage. Even small scratches can destroy details that survive for hundreds of years. Because of this, many petroglyph locations are now protected. Some sites are kept secret to prevent damage. Others are carefully monitored by park rangers and archaeologists. Protecting these places is very important. The carvings are not just historical objects. They are also part of the cultural heritage of Native American tribes who still live in this region today. Researchers must also be careful in studying these symbols. Some carvings may hold sacred meaning that is not meant to be shared publicly. Respecting tribal traditions is just as important as studying history. Today, the BlackHills attract many visitors from around the world. People come to explore the forests, hike the mountains, and experience the natural beauty of the region. One of the most famous landmarks nearby is Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Huge faces of American presidents were carved into the mountain there during the 20th century. But long before those giant carvings appeared, ancient people were already carving symbols into rocks across the hills. Their carvings are much smaller and quieter, yet in many ways, they may hold deeper stories. The modern monument shows a clear message about history and politics. The ancient petroglyphs hold mysteries that no one has fully solved, and that mystery continues to capture the imagination of historians and visitors. Now let's talk about the present situation at these petroglyph sites. Many of these locations are now protected by national forests, parks, and tribal lands. This protection helps prevent further damage and allows researchers to study the carvings carefully. Education programs also teach visitors why these sites must be respected. This is one of the positive sides of the situation today. Rural people now understand that these carvings are valuable pieces of human history. However, there are still some challenges. Natural erosion continues slowly. Wind and rain cannot be stopped. Over many years, some carvings may fade completely. Tourism is another issue. While most visitors behave responsibly, even small numbers of people touching or climbing near the carvings can cause damage. Another difficulty is that many meanings behind the symbols may remain unknown forever. Without complete oral histories, the full stories behind the carvings may never be recovered. But maybe that is part of their power. In my opinion, the petroglyphs of the BlackHills should not be treated only as puzzles to solve. They are reminders that people lived meaningful lives here long before modern history began. Those people watched the same stars we see today. They walked the same hills and respected the land deeply. Even if we never fully understand every symbol, protecting these carvings is more important than solving every mystery. Right now, the petroglyphs still rest quietly on the rocks of the BlackHills. Some are hidden deep in the forests. Others are known only to archaeologists and tribal communities. The wind still moves through the trees, just as it did centuries ago. And the ancient symbols remain there, holding their secrets in silence, waiting for anyone curious enough to wonder what stories they were meant to tell. Giant bones found in the plains. Picture the wide open plains of South Dakota. The land stretches far in every direction. Grass moves with the wind like waves in a quiet ocean. At first, it looks like a simple landscape. Nothing unusual. Just fields, sky, and distant hills. But imagine digging into that quiet land and finding something strange. Something that makes people stop and stare. Something that does not look normal at all. For more than 100 years, there have been stories about giant bones discovered in the plains of South Dakota and nearby regions. These stories appeared in old newspapers, explorer reports, and early archaeological notes from the late 1800s and early 1900s. According to those reports, workers digging into burial mounds or riverbanks sometimes uncovered skeletons much larger than normal human bones. Some reports claimed the skeletons were over 7 feet tall. Others described bones that suggested people nearly 8 feet tall or even larger. At the time, these discoveries shocked many people. Imagine standing beside a skeleton that looks almost human, but much bigger. Longer arms, large skull, huge leg bones. Naturally, people began asking questions. Who were these giants? Did an unknown race of large humans once live across the plains? Or were these stories simply misunderstandings or exaggerations? To understand the mystery, we need to go back to the early days of archaeology in North America. During the 1800s, many burial mounds were discovered across the American Midwest. These mounds were raised earth structures built by ancient Native American cultures. Some were used as burial sites. Others may have been ceremonial locations. As settlers expanded westward, many of these mounds were dug into, sometimes by archaeologists, but often by farmers or treasure hunters. During these excavations, people occasionally found skeletons inside the mounds. Most of the bones belonged to normal human remains, but a few discoveries seemed unusual. Some skeletons were larger than expected. Old newspapers reported these finds with dramatic headlines. Stories described giant skeletons uncovered beneath the earth. One report described a skeleton over 8 feet tall, discovered near the plains region. Another story claimed large skulls with unusual shapes were found during mound excavations. These reports spread quickly. Soon, rumors began growing about an ancient race of giants that may have lived in North America long before modern history. But here is where the mystery becomes complicated. Many of the bones reported in these stories were never properly studied by modern scientists. Some skeletons were removed and sent to museums or universities. Others were lost, misplaced, or even reburied. In some cases, the original excavation records were incomplete or missing. That makes it very difficult for historians today to confirm what was actually discovered. Another important detail is that human height can vary greatly. Even today, some people grow much taller than average. A skeleton measuring 7 feet tall would certainly be unusual, but not impossible. So some scientists believe these giant skeleton stories may simply describe very tall individuals rather than an unknown race. There is also another explanation. Early newspaper reporters often exaggerated stories to attract readers. In the late 1800s, newspapers competed heavily for attention. If someone discovered an unusually large skeleton, reporters might describe it as a giant to make the story more exciting. Over time, those exaggerated reports could turn into legends. But even with these explanations, some questions remain. Because a few reports described skeletons with features that seemed different from normal human bones. Some accounts mentioned unusually thick bones or large skulls. Without the original remains available for modern study, it is impossible to confirm whether those descriptions were accurate. Another interesting part of the story comes from Native American traditions. Some tribal stories mention powerful beings or large warriors from ancient times. These stories are part of spiritual and cultural traditions, and they should not be treated simply as historical records. However, they show that the idea of unusually large people existed in some legends long before the newspaper reports appeared. Still, historians are careful when connecting legends with physical discoveries. Stories passed through generations often carry symbolic meaning rather than literal descriptions. So, one more possibility sometimes discussed is that some of the bones discovered were not human at all. The plains of South Dakota contain many fossils of ancient animals. The region around Badlands National Park is especially famous for fossil discoveries. Scientists have found bones of large prehistoric animals there, including ancient rhinos, saber-toothed predators, and giant mammals that lived millions of years ago. To someone unfamiliar with fossils, large animal bones might look like human bones at first glance, especially if only part of the skeleton was discovered. So some giant skeleton stories may actually have started with misunderstood fossils. Without careful scientific examination, it would be easy to mistake unusual bones for something mysterious. But here is the part that keeps the story interesting. Not every report can be explained so easily. A few historical records describe skeletons discovered inside burial mounds in positions typical for human burials. That suggests at least some of the discoveries involved real human remains. If those individuals were truly much taller than average, it raises another possibility. Maybe some ancient populations simply had larger body sizes than we expect today. Human height can change over time, depending on nutrition, environment, and genetics. In different historical periods, certain groups of people may have grown taller or shorter, depending on living conditions. Unfortunately, because many of the early discoveries were not properly preserved, modern researchers cannot study them again using modern technology like DNA testing. This is one reason the mystery continues. There simply is not enough physical evidence left to reach a final conclusion. Another reason the story survives is the powerful image it creates. The idea of giant humans walking across the ancient plains captures people's imagination. Picture a time thousands of years ago when tribes lived across the grasslands, hunting buffalo and traveling with the seasons. Now imagine among them a few individuals much taller than the rest. Would they have been leaders, warriors, spiritual figures? We may never know. And perhaps that uncertainty is what keeps the mystery alive. Today, most archaeologists believe there is no strong evidence for an ancient race of giants in North America. But they also admit that early archaeological records were not always perfect. Many sites were disturbed before proper scientific methods existed. Important clues may have been lost forever. Now let's look at the present situation related to these mysterious discoveries. Many ancient mound sites across the plains are now protected. Archaeological laws help prevent unauthorized digging and protect burial grounds from damage. This is a very positive development. It ensures that any new discoveries will be studied carefully and respectfully. Scientists today use advanced methods such as carbon dating, DNA analysis, and detailed recording techniques when studying human remains. These tools help avoid the confusion that happened in earlier times. However, some challenges remain. Many burial mounds were destroyed during the expansion of farms and towns in the past century. Once those sites were damaged, valuable historical information disappeared. Another issue is misinformation. Online stories sometimes repeat the old giant skeleton reports without checking historical facts. This can create confusion about what really happened. In my opinion, The mystery of the giant bones is a perfect example of how history, legend, and human imagination can mix together. Some of the old reports may have been exaggerated. Some discoveries may have been misunderstood. But the fact that these stories appeared again and again suggests that unusual discoveries really did happen. Even if the truth turns out to be something simple, like unusually tall individuals or misidentified fossils, the mystery still reminds us how much history lies hidden beneath the ground. Right now, the plains of South Dakota remain quiet and peaceful. Farmers work the land, wildlife moves through the grasslands. Archaeologists continue studying ancient sites carefully, but beneath the soil, pieces of the past are still buried. And somewhere out there, under the endless prairie sky, there may still be bones waiting to be discovered. Bones that could finally explain whether the old stories of giants were truth, misunderstanding, or something in between.